Hey there my friends, Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have Stampin' Show and Tell for you today, and we're going to do another one of our stack, cut, and shuffle cards. So I thought these were pretty cool, and you can really do them in lots of different designs. So I'm going to go through one today and kind of talk about how I figure out my measurements before I do my cutting. So stay with me as I go through some of my processes here. Okay, so first off, I'm going to be using the Fresh as the Daisy DSP, which is retiring at the end of the month. I'm not even sure if it's not sold out yet. So I have paper left. I'm going to use these 3 pieces from that collection. So I have this fun Moody Mauve print with the white daisies. It's got some bubble bath and some wild wheat in it, and then the Moody Mauve background. So I have 3 pieces that coordinate from that set, and these are all starting at 6 by 6. But yours don't necessarily have to. I just happen to have 6 by 6 ready to go. So when I make my cards, my base cards are generally 5.5 by 8.5, and then I score it at 4 1/4. So I have 3 base cards. I have 1 in each of my colors. I've got Bubble Bath, Moody Mauve, and a Wild Wheat. So we're going to shuffle up our base colors as well. Then the next thing I think about is, do I want my DSP mounted? And generally I do mount it, and so I generally mount mine at 4 and 5 1/4, so it steps it in 1/4 of an inch from both sides, and we end up with about 1/8 of an inch framing. Okay, so you're cutting 1/4 inch smaller, but you end up with 1/8 of an inch framing. So I've got that on my grid sheet here to show you how I figure out how to cut my DSP. Now if I just wanted a straight panel inside, I would just again cut my DSP down by another 1/4. So instead of 4, I would go 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, so 3 3/4 by 5 would give me 1/8 of an inch gap or frame, okay, around the edges. But then I'm going to cut this piece down into 3 pieces for my cut and shuffle technique. So if I don't want any gap in between the 3 pieces, I could still go here and then just cut them. But if I do want a gap, I need to adjust this for how many cuts I'm going to make. So I thought for today I would just do 3 columns up and down. So I've already got my gap here accounted for, but I've got, so here's a gap, and then here will be a piece, and then we'll have a gap and a piece and a gap and a piece. So I have 2 more gaps going up and down. So I'm going to take away another 1/4 inch from the width of my paper. Okay, so taking away a 1/4 inch, so I've got more gaps. I'm going to go at 3.5 by 5 as my starting DSP. Okay, so that's going to leave me the 1/8 inch gap on the bottom and the top. It's going to leave me the 2 originals on the side, and it's going to give me 2 more gaps in the middle. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to cut my DSP down to 3.5 by 5 to start. Okay, so I'm going to stack it all up, bring in my trimmer, and I'm just going to layer it on here. So I'm going to go to 3.5, 3.5. The edges aren't quite straight. Let's try that again. Okay. 3.5. Now hold them firm so they don't shift around on you. And then I'm going to turn it and go 5. 3.5 by 5. Okay. Alright, now I've got the piece I'm going to have for my center section. Okay, but now I'm going to cut them into 3 total strips. Now, this part doesn't really matter what widths you go with. They could be equal widths, right? Split 3.5 into 3 even columns, or one could be wider and 2 could be skinnier, or they could all be different lengths, different widths. So I'm going to go with just an eyeballing feeling. I'm going to go 1.5. No, I'm going to go 1 3/4. I kind of want one that's quite a bit wider. Alright, 1 3/4. So that's my first one. So that leaves me with another 1 3/4. Right, I should have done the math. Okay, so 1 3/4. Now I could split this in half, or I could go 1 skinny and 1 not. So I'm going to go with a 3/4, and that'll leave me with a 1. Okay, so I've got three strips now that I've cut. Okay, so 1 3/4, 3/4, and 1 was left. All right, let me take these over here now. Okay, now comes the shuffle part. So we want 1 section of each. So if I have 1, 2, 3, shuffle it. This way you're not putting the same pieces next to each other. Okay, and then we've got the last piece. Now, that doesn't quite make sense, so we should take one of these and swap it with that one. Oh, what did I do? I got too many pieces all in the same place. This one there. 1, 2, 3. One of these needs to be pink. Pink, gold. Okay, that works. Ooh, see, it can get confusing. That's why you lay it all out first. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my white mounting panels. Okay, so if I wanted to make them all about the same and leave them in this wide, skinny, wide pattern, I could do that. Okay, I can also decide to shuffle them around on my card now. Okay, so maybe I want the pink wide section on that side, the daisies in the middle, and I want to put this on this side this time. Okay, so I kind of turned it around. Or I could decide I want the thick part in the middle, and I'm going to put a skinny on either side of it. So when you do this kind of one, where it's just 3 or more sections that are just going to make up the inner part, you can shuffle them again after you've cut them. So however you want to make them. Now, I am also going to tell you that sometimes when you use DSP, for example, this pink daisy that I use, the back of that is the wild wheat. Okay, so again, if you have a pattern and the front and backs are the same, even though we started off by doing 3 different patterns with a shuffle and cut technique, if you decide, you know, I really think I want a bigger daisy than this, and it's your second card, they're your cards, ladies. Make them your way. So flip, oh, that's not that one. So flip this one over to get your daisies, if that's what you want to do. Okay, so you can change up your cards as many times as you want to once you've got them cut. The stack, cut, and shuffle, if you do diagonal cuts, you're a little more stuck with just shuffling them because they have to fit that way. But if you do rectangular cuts, you can shuffle and flip additionally. So you can have lots of different fun patterns with this easy cutting technique. Okay, let's put one together. All right, I'm going to use the Moody Mauve. I'm going to pick up this one. I'll move these off to the side. And we're just going to put these down with our liquid adhesive. Easy peasy. Now remember when we started I said there was going to be an 1/8 of an inch gap around these. So we'll just put them on if my glue decides to work. Come on. I just used you. It's really not going to work for me. Come on. Well now, I might just have to get a new one. Alright, we'll use a new one. I'll figure that one out later. Alright, so put your adhesive on the back. And like I was saying, 1/8 of an inch framing. So this one I'm going to put right here. So you can kind of eyeball it. Right? If it's all 1/8 of an inch, then I want the same framing at the top as I have on the side. And that kind of lets you put the first one down. Okay, now I'm going to go with the wild wheat in the middle. I'm going to flip this over, and so I want the same framing on the top and in my gap. okay, in the top and in my gap. And then I've got my last piece here. And this is going to go on over here. To put that one together. Okay, so now this piece I can put right on top, or I could pop it on dimensionals. For today I'm just going to put it right on top with our liquid adhesive. Now if you wanted to add ribbon, you could tuck it behind this before you wrap it around. Let's see, now I'm going to flip it over because I want my daisies on the right, I think, even though I made it on the left. Okay, so now let's just lay these other ones out. I'm not going to do all the adhering right now, but I will put them pictures when I put them in the newsletter. So if you don't get my newsletter, go ahead and hop over to the link so you can get the newsletter. You'll see all the pictures, not just the one I finish on the video today. So this one can be something like that. And the last one would go on the wild wheat. You can shuffle those around and position them as you want. Okay, so we have 3 similar but different cards, all with the same color schemes. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now let me just put these off to the side. I'm going to bring in my stamps to finish off this first card. So I'm going to use the Something Fancy, and I use the Something Fancy dies to coordinate. I'm just going to stamp some sentiments in these with my Moody Mauve ink. So let's see. This top one I wanted to do the grateful. So I've got this one here, and I'm going to use grateful for the everyday magic of you. I've got that one. Alright, the second one is this one here. Here's to beautiful beginnings and happily ever after. So that one I'm going to put on the tag. And the third one is May the Good. Where is it? Here it is. Ooh, I haven't put my thing on this one yet. My little label. See how I stamp it. A little crooked. I'll have to redo that one. That one says, May the good you do come back to you. Okay, so, but you get the idea. I can have different tags for different cards, but keep it all within the same color coordinating, and they'll all come out beautifully in the end. So this one, I think I am going to add a little bit of thread. So, let's see. I'm going to get out my Moody Mauve twine. Just unroll some of that. I'm going to try to make some big loops. Just to decorate it up a little bit behind that sentiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of pieces of glue dots down, just as an anchor point. I'm going to take my thread and make a couple big loops. I'm just going to tuck this onto those glue dots, just as anchor points. Okay, and then I'm going to put my sentiment on dimensionals. And then I can just pop that up over my anchor points, just like that. So, there's the first one that's done, and I will finish the other two and then share them, like I said, in the newsletter. But I hope you enjoyed this kind of breakdown of how I figure out how small to cut my DSP to start with, and then how I work out my gaps. So I hope that helps you. Alright, ladies, and all my stamping friends, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you'll use the cutting technique to help you in your own projects. So until next time, do some fun stamping. Bye!